Imagine you're back in 1998. There was no YouTube, there was no TikTok, no Twitter, and no social media in general. There is internet, but it's still in its early days when people use it for basic stuff like calculations and communication. There is still this mystery behind it, and people definitely do not know its full potential. The world is much more believable and certainly more peaceful, at least in your day-to-day life. Now, in a time like this, your friend tells you how in not even 20 years, the world is going to see its biggest shift in progression, and some of it might not be for the better. Your knee-jerk gut reaction would be to laugh and punch him in his face for being so stupid, because what can possibly happen in just 20 years that will quote-unquote completely changes? That's just unrealistic and foolish to even think about. Enter serial Experiments Lain, an anime from 1998 that used the idea of how airy the internet is and created an incredibly unique viewing experience. As mentioned in the title and the thumbnail of the video, this anime predicted the current world all the way back in 1998. But honestly, that isn't even the most impressive part about this anime. I just used that aspect to create intrigue in the audience, because serial Experiments Lain is much more than what people give it credit for. Most people associate this anime with stuff like ahead of its time, or it knew everything all along. And don't get me wrong, all this is true and it's very cool. But the focus of this video is gonna be about the plot and the themes this anime presents and the way it chooses to present those themes. Also, I will try to keep spoilers at a bare minimum because I really want you guys to check it out in case you haven't. The entire 13-episode ride revolves around the internet and the effect it would have on humanity if people were to get consumed by it. This obviously is the most basic and surface level description of the show, because the story gets way more serious and deep. It opens with this girl committing suicide by falling from a building. Currently, we have no info on who she is or why she even doing this. We just watch as it all happens. Some days after the incident, we are introduced to the protagonist, Lane. She's a very closed and borderline introverted person who is definitely not catching up with her generation in terms of technology. She likes to live in her own space with nothing but her own thoughts. Now one day, Lane and her classmates receive mails from the dead girl, stating that while she's dead, her consciousness still lived on in the Wired. Wired is basically a symbolic way to refer to the internet. From here, the world of the Wired starts taking over Lane, and the show gets more and more disturbing as Lane goes on a journey exploring the Wired, experiencing completely new ideas on life, existence, and reality. This anime seems very simple at start, but as you keep watching, you realize how deep it really is. From the very first episode, there are multiple mysteries set in Lane's life that in a way hint to you that things might not be this simple forever. Not only the story gets very complex as it progresses, but the way it is presented to us is also very quote-unquote weird. The show is very artistic and heavy in terms of philosophies. Not everything is clearly explained to you. Most of it just happens with no real meaning or explanation behind it, which also means that a lot of it is left to your interpretation. It's almost like there is no clear point to the story. It's just events that do tell a story, but most of it is left to you. It's like you're following Lane's life through the show and stuff happens, but you have to piece everything together and try to make sense of it. I know some people don't like this way of storytelling because it's weird and takes a lot of effort from your end, and that's fine. But I personally love to brainstorm various theories and try to unwind the meaning behind every scene. It makes the story much more engaging and memorable. I understand the story is not for everyone. It has cool ideas, but it's very slow in presenting them to you. Yes, it is a slow burn, and you need to take time to properly properly grasp and understand its layers of symbolism. Like in my case, after every 3 episodes, I watch these 40-minute videos to actually understand and get everything out of what I just watched. Again, I know not everyone will enjoy doing this, and you might say if a story needs you to go and take info from external sources, then it has already failed as a story, which I don't agree with, as every story is different in its approach, but that's for another video. You can say that the story of serial Experiments Lain is pretty all over the place, but its central theme never changes: the wired. As I said earlier, this show predicted a lot of our current generation in terms of technology. People use the wired for good and evil, to connect with others and also to harass them. It also shows a very eerie and dark side to it. We see some get so addicted to it that they start to forget the line between reality and the wired. They want to completely live in the wired, ignoring the actual reality. The show portrays Wired as a rather different world from Earth. It was supposed to be a world where people can do what they want, express themselves. It was meant to be an escape, but they got too into it and the world of their pastime became their reality. And the show never treats this as a flaw in people, but kind of like a given. If they were to get a world where they could be the perfect ideal versions of themselves, say whatever they want to whomever, while always behind a screen, no wonder most prefer this over their sad, pathetic reality filled with competition and insecurities. And this is basically our modern age in a nutshell. We are sad and unhappy with our real selves, so we look for validation from exterior sources like the internet. And the show perfectly portrays the concept of having two personas, one in real life and one in the wired. Lane got so into the wired that she subconsciously made two different versions of herself, and the show was never clear about which one was the real Lane, let alone if any of them existed in the first place. This too is how we kind of live our lives right now. All of us have a different personality when we go online. It's like we wear a fake mask, cause that is the ideal personality we want from our real selves, but we can only get it on the internet. Like how Lane is an introverted closed kid, but she wants to be an open and outgoing type that she fulfills in the wired. I mean, that is why features like filters exist in the first place, to make you look like how you want people to look at you rather than who you actually are. But where things get really scary is if the two personas are to be combined. Is the line between reality and the internet still there, or are they both one? And can your entire perception of yourself change from the ideas of the internet? Knowingly or unknowingly, we all do this regularly, and it's really eerie to me. Because where does our actual identity end and where does our internet persona start? When you go offline, does that version of yourself goes away too, or it takes over your actual self? Does your computer dictate who you are? What if you right now are slowly getting consumed by your fake self without you even knowing anything about it? And if you did fully get consumed by the internet, then at that point, are you still even a human? Do you even exist at that point? Who are you? Are you really you?
Present day. Present time.
If existential crisis were an anime genre, serial Experiments Lain would top its list. Of course, this is not me saying that this is all the anime is about, but it's just the message or interpretation I took from this show. And this is the most interesting part of this anime. Everyone can find different meanings and ideas from the same exact story. Everyone can find different emotional aspects that they tend to draw towards and connect with. Because as I said earlier, the story does not have a specific meaning or purpose behind it. It's like Konaka, the writer of the story, gave you all the color paints with an empty canvas, and you can draw your own painting based on your preferences and beliefs. Cause when all is said and done, at the end of the day, all that really matters is, well, you.